Well, good morning friends, and welcome to my channel. I am Crystal and this is Homemaking on the Homestead, and today I have a day in the kitchen planned. As I'm filming this, my washing machine is running and it is in the room right next to my kitchen. So if you are hearing something in the background, that is it. It is almost done, but I needed to get going, so I'm just filming anyway. The weekend is approaching, and so typically, if I can, I like to have a few things made up as we move into the weekend. So my cooking needs are very small over the weekend, and I can just kind of relax and have a break for a couple days. So today I'm going to show you what I have going on. I have actually no idea where I'm at now because I had to take a pause. I had a phone call, I had hubby asking me a question, I had 2 or 3 other things start happening here, and I was like, where did I leave off? So hopefully this will make sense. Anyway, okay, so right now what I pulled out of the freezer was some pizza dough. I make a recipe that makes 3. I usually use 1, put the other 2 in the freezer. We've already used the second one, so I'm going to be putting this in a bowl so it can continue to kind of come up to room temperature and do a little rising before I make the pizza. And I also had a little bit of mozzarella cheese in my freezer, so I pulled that out to use on the pizza. The other day I was talking to you guys about making some date nut bread, and I went to look for my dates in the freezer and realized I have bananas. And so I pulled those out, and they are defrosting. And yes, as they defrost, they do get darker, but it doesn't really affect the bread at all. I only have 3 bananas in here, and typically I like to use 4 because it makes the banana bread a whole lot more moist. So what I am going to do is just improvise, and I'll show you that. I buy these little 4-ounce fruit cups. These are mandarin oranges. I am going to drain the juice out of them and mush those up and add that to my banana bread. So I think that'll give it a really good flavor, maybe unique. I don't know. We're going to give it a try and see what I think. And finally, for the second meal that I'm going to make this afternoon, now it is this afternoon with all the interruptions, I pulled a pound of already cooked hamburger out of my freezer. I did that on a meal prep day, which I also showed you guys about recently. And I have about 2 cups of tomato puree that I pulled out of my freezer. So at the end of last summer, we have some wonderful, generous neighbors who shared a huge amount of cherry tomatoes, the little small tomatoes, and we thoroughly enjoyed them, added them to a lot of salads and things, but I had so many left. It's like, what do you do with cherry tomatoes? So what I ended up doing is I just washed them all and threw them into my blender and pureed them until they were just liquid. And then I measured 2-cup portions into Ziploc bags and put those in the freezer. So my plan is to kind of make a hamburger soup with the obviously the hamburger, and I'm going to throw this into the soup. I also pulled off of my canning shelf some green beans and some sweet potatoes, so that's going to go into the soup. I am not following a recipe for this. I am just kind of throwing it all together. I also grabbed a jar of beans. I have some red beans, so I'll probably throw that in there, and when I finally get to it, I will decide if I want to add anything else. I could throw a small handful of rice in there or some pasta or something like that, just to give it a little bit more bulk. And those are my cooking plans for this afternoon, so why don't y'all come along with me and I will show you how I'm going to get it all done today. I started off by making the banana bread. I wanted to be able to get that cooked because I knew it was going to take probably an hour or so in the oven, and I felt like I wanted to get that done, and so I had time to still make my pizza. And I just drained those mandarin oranges and kind of mushed them up a bit with my fork. I probably didn't need to do that because obviously they got mixed up quite a bit more with the mixer. But anyway, I finished putting all the rest of the ingredients in there, did a little bit of mixing with my mixer, but with quick bread, you don't want to over mix it. And so I finished it off with just kind of folding in the dry ingredients. I put parchment paper at the bottom of my baking pan because I always do that. It just no worries about sticking, even though I also will grease the pan. Now that I had that in the oven, it was time to turn my attention to chopping up some of my vegetables for my soup and for my pizza. I had some onions and I had sliced those and then chopped some extra for the soup, and did the same with the sweet peppers. I chopped some for the soup and sliced some up for the pizza. And I went ahead and did the olives for the pizza as well. Then I put my veggies into a pan that had oil in it and got those softening up a bit. I drained my sweet potatoes and my green beans in preparation for putting those into the soup as well. Once my veggies were soft, I went ahead and added the hamburger. Some of it was still frozen, but that wasn't going to be a problem. And same for my tomato puree. I did decide to add the red beans that I had drained and rinsed also. I added a little bit of water. I had 4 cups there measured out. And I think in the end, I probably used maybe 3 cups or so. And I found a carrot in my refrigerator and chopped that up and added that in there too. Then it was time to season it. And I just used some basic seasonings. You just have to do it to your own taste and with the seasonings that you prefer cooking with. These are my favorite. I didn't have any stock or broth or anything like that, which is why I added the powdered broth, and then the rest was just some of my favorite seasonings, and stirred that all in and covered it and let that simmer for a little while. Now I turned my attention to the pizza because my bread was getting to the point where it was going to come out soon. I put a little oil on my hands, which really helped with the sticky pizza crust. You don't want to add more flour because this pizza crust is absolutely delicious and perfect the way it is. In my refrigerator, I had probably somewhere between a half and a third of a jar of pasta sauce left, and you can use that for spaghetti sauce without any problems. And I really wanted to use it up, which was one of my motivations for making pizza, was to get that used up. Also, I had some pepperoni that I took out of the freezer. I've shared before, I buy big packages of it from Costco, divide it all up, and put them into the freezer. And then topped it with all the veggies, and I was able to use up all that mozzarella cheese that I had pulled out too. By that time, my bread came out, and yes, it got a little dark, so I had put some foil on there because I had to cook it a little bit over an hour. But then I bumped my oven up to 425 and was able to put my pizza in. I didn't use all of that spaghetti pasta sauce, and so I decided to add what was left, which was maybe half a cup, into my soup. So now that jar was finished off, and it actually gave the soup a really nice flavor. My pizza came out, it looked absolutely beautiful. I cut that up and it was just cheesy, delicious. We really enjoyed that for dinner, and it was great to just stand back and see the accomplishments of my afternoon. All of it turned out good. I will have to say that the banana bread with the mandarin oranges in it was fantastic. My husband absolutely loved it. He gave it a big 2 thumbs up and wanted me to make it again because he enjoyed it so much. So it was just moist and flavorful and super good. Okay, so there you go, friends. This is my day's efforts, and now we have food to eat for the entire weekend, and probably a little beyond that too, with the soup and all that good stuff. It was a very profitable afternoon in the kitchen, and I just love being in my kitchen. It's one of my happy places. So I want to thank you guys so much for coming along with me. And of course, you know, if you enjoyed this video and these types of videos, please give me a thumbs up and let me know, and leave me a comment, say hi, introduce yourself if you haven't yet. I would love to meet more of you. And that pretty much sums it up. I got a bunch of dishes over here to wash. Well, I've been keeping up with it, but I still have dishes to wash before we eat dinner. And I think that about wraps up this video. So, all right, you guys, I will see you all in my next video. Bye-bye.